The morning of Nora's 8th birthday started the way Claire had planned it for weeks: pancakes with strawberries, the good plates, a handmade banner taped slightly crooked above the kitchen window because Nora had insisted on helping and Claire had let her. The house smelled like sugar and coffee, and for a few hours everything was exactly what it was supposed to be. The package from Claire's parents had arrived 2 days earlier. She'd set it aside, told herself she was saving it for the actual morning. That was mostly true. The other part, the part she didn't examine too closely, was that she'd wanted a buffer, a little time between receiving something from them and having to react to it in front of her daughter. That had become a habit over the years, building in buffers. Nora tore into the wrapping with the focused destruction only a child can manage. The box underneath was white with a pink ribbon. Inside, folded in tissue, was a dress, pink eyelet lace around the collar, the kind of thing that looked like it cost more than it probably did. Nora lifted it and held it against her chest and turned to the mirror they kept near the coat hooks. "I love it," she said, and she meant it. Claire could tell. Then Nora turned it around, looking for the tag to check the size, and she stopped. Not a dramatic stop, just a stillness. The kind that happens when something doesn't compute. "What is this, Mommy?" Claire crossed the kitchen. She took the dress gently from Nora's hands and looked at where her daughter had been looking. Not the tag. Something pinned near the inside seam. A small card, the size of a gift enclosure note. Printed on it was a message, brief, dressed up in the language of love and tradition, but unmistakable in its meaning to any adult who read it. It was about Nora's father, about Claire's divorce, about what kind of home Nora was being raised in now, about God and failure, and the careful, smiling implication that Nora deserved better than what Claire was giving her, tucked inside a child's birthday dress. Meet, Claire understood, it's immediately to be found by Nora eventually. Maybe not today. Maybe when she was older, curious, pulling it from a closet, a seed patient and deniable. Claire's hands were shaking. She felt it in her fingers before she felt it anywhere else. She was aware of Nora watching her, reading her face the way children do when they sense the temperature of a room changing. She folded the dress. She set it on the counter. She turned back to Nora and said, "It's just a note from Grandma. You know how she likes to write things down." She said it the way she said many things, smoothly, without visible effort, in the voice she had developed over 8 years of managing the distance between her parents and her life. Nora seemed satisfied. She moved on to the next gift. The birthday continued. Claire moved through the rest of the morning on a kind of autopilot she had become fluent in. She lit the candles, she sang. She watched her daughter close her eyes and make a wish with the particular seriousness of a child who still believes it matters. She took photographs. She laughed when Nora laughed, and underneath all of it, something was settling. Not rage. She'd moved through rage sometime around the third pancake and come out the other side into something quieter and more deliberate. She was thinking about the dress, about the card, about the fact that this wasn't the first thing. There had been a book sent the previous Christmas, a children's devotional with certain passages marked, which happened to align neatly with the arguments her parents had made during the divorce. There had been offhand comments during video calls, phrases aimed just over Nora's head. There had been a conversation 2 years ago where her mother had said something about primary custody that Claire had chosen to interpret as concern rather than pressure, because interpreting it the other way would have required her to do something about it. She had always found a way to not do something about it. That evening, after Nora was asleep, Claire sat at the kitchen table with the dress in front of her and her phone beside it. She photographed the card. She photographed the placement, how it had been pinned deliberately, near a seam a child might discover. She wrote down what she had observed plainly and without embellishment in the notes app she used for practical things. Then she sent an email to her family attorney, not a panicked email, not an accusatory one, just a factual account with the photographs attached, asking what documentation she should preserve and whether this constituted anything she needed to be aware of. She didn't call her parents. She didn't compose a confrontation. She simply created a record. The call started the next morning before 8. Her mother first, twice, then her father, then her mother again. A voicemail that was cheerful in a way that felt slightly too calibrated, asking how the birthday went, asking if Nora liked the dress, asking Claire to call back when she had a moment. Claire listened to the voicemails once and set her phone face down on the counter. Her attorney responded that afternoon. The documentation was worth keeping. Given the existing custody arrangement, the item could be considered relevant if a pattern was being established. She used that word, pattern, and Claire felt something in her chest release slightly, because that was exactly the word. That was what she had spent years refusing to name. She didn't know yet what would happen next. She didn't know if anything formal would follow, or whether the simple existence of the record would be enough to change the temperature. What she knew was that something had shifted on her side of the equation that couldn't be shifted back. Her parents eventually reached her 2 days later by calling from a different number. Her father's voice was careful in a way it usually wasn't. He asked about the birthday. He did not mention the dress. He did not ask whether she'd found anything inside it. That absence was its own kind of answer. Claire talked to him for 4 minutes. She was polite. She said Nora had a wonderful birthday. She said she'd be in touch about the holidays. She did not perform warmth, and she did not perform anger. She simply concluded the call and returned to what she'd been doing. Later that week, Nora asked whether Grandma and Grandpa would come to her party. Claire sat with the question for a moment. "I'm not sure yet," she said. "We'll figure it out." Nora nodded, satisfied by the honesty of uncertainty, and went back to her drawing. The dress had already been donated. The card was saved in a folder Claire kept in her email, labeled plainly, filed under a name she hoped she would never need to search. She hoped that too, with the same quiet resolve she was learning to trust in herself. The kind that doesn't need an audience.